Out front tonight, Shan Wu. He's a former federal prosecutor. April Ryan, White House correspondent for American Urban Radio Networks, and Mark Preston, my colleague and CNN senior political analyst. Analyst, if I could begin with you. You saw the president there saying he's always been a big fan of Don McGahn's. The facts, is that true?
I think he was a big fan back during the campaign. Don McGahn played a very important role for Donald Trump when he was launching his campaign. Played a very important role, quite frankly, over the past couple of years, but he didn't play a role that Donald Trump wanted him to play. Donald Trump wanted him to be his personal lawyer, to look out for him, and not necessarily to look out for the country. Now, what we saw from Don McGahn, though, is that in many ways he has looked out for Donald Trump. He has 26 judges who have been confirmed to the appeals court. That's unbelievable, Jim. That's an amazing number. You have one, very likely two, within the next few weeks, or certainly the next few months. We will see two picks to the Supreme Court. Don McGahn had a major role in that. And let's not forget, what Abby just said is extremely important. Don McGahn refused to fire Robert Mueller. Could you imagine if he had went through and had done that, what kind of constitutional crisis we could be in? And also, he also protected Jeff Sessions. And because of all that, and because of his long history here in Washington, D.C., he is going to be missed, specifically by Republicans on Capitol Hill.
April, but how about for the president here? Because the president did want him to fire Mueller. He didn't do that. As Mark mentioned, he provided some cover for the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, but the president has repeatedly threatened to fire him. I mean, the bottom line here, would we, with his departure, be losing a check on the president, in effect?
Yes, you're losing a check, but you also have to wondering what kind of check Mueller is receiving with this. Does this check off this president is obstructing justice by firing someone because he was angry, or allowing him to leave, whatever the case is, because he went and testified to Mueller? This president believes in loyalty, and this president has a hard time dealing with those who do not stand with him on certain issues. He cannot stand Jeff Sessions. He cannot stand Mueller. And the president allowed his special counsel, his White House special counsel, to stay. But enough was enough in this president's eyes. We've seen this play out over and over again. And the question is, what does Mueller think of this? It's not about what we think or the optics of it. It's about what Mueller is looking at this as. I mean, 30 hours of testimony, and the president clearly did not like it. And now he's gone. What does that say?
Shan, I mean, in light of that, in light of the president's role in this, his treatment of many of his senior advisors, how hard will it be for someone to fill this role, fill McGahn's shoes?
I think it's hard any time that lawyers are in transition. I mean, when we transitioned onto the Rick Gates case, I mean, there's a huge amount of catch-up we had to play because there'd been another law firm involved. And similarly, I can't speak for his present counsel, but, you know, there's a lot to do. It's not just the paperwork or documents. I mean, you have to develop a rapport with your client. You have to develop a rapport with the prosecutors. So to the extent that they're talking about Emmett Flood doing it, that's helpful because he's already well-versed in the situation. But I think from a bigger picture perspective, it really shows that the entire White House legal strategy is now directed at the Russian probe. There's a lot more that the White House counsel does than just defend the president in the criminal investigation, and that's completely being dropped when they turn to Flood, whose specialty has been the Russian case.
Well, Mark, I want to play what the president said when he was asked specifically today whether he was concerned at all about what McGahn said to Mueller's team in those 3 interviews. Have a listen.
No, not at all. Not at all.
Can you talk to the president? Or maybe talk about Canada going?
I knew he was going also, as you know. I had to approve it, so we didn't claim executive. No, I don't have to be aware. We do everything straight. We do everything by the book, and Don is an excellent guy.
Mark Preston, everything by the book.
Well, that might be a bridge too far, right? I mean, look, there's a level of authenticity, honestly, all kidding aside, that President Trump seems to lack. Clearly, he knew that or eventually knew that Don McGahn had spoke to Robert Mueller. But what we have learned from our own reporting, Jim, as you know, is that he didn't know that it was for that long. He didn't know, President Trump didn't know it was for 30 hours. And the White House and the White House counsel, even Rudy Giuliani came out himself and said that they didn't really know what Don McGahn told President Trump, told Robert Mueller about President Trump, nor do we. So we've got to be very careful. But we do know, though, that that's a pretty sticky situation to be in if you're Don McGahn as the White House counsel that has to go and provide 30 hours of testimony to a special prosecutor.
April, of course, you're in the White House. You've been covering this administration for some time. It is a long list of people very close to this president who we know have spoken to both federal prosecutors in New York, but also to Robert Mueller here. What is the president's level of concern about this truthfully, despite his happy, sanguine comments today?
Well, one thing we know for sure is the president feels that when people come to talk to him, that they'll turn on him. He knows that. But it's another level when they go to speak to Robert Mueller, because he calls this Russia probe a witch hunt, and he believes that people are trying to get him, and it's not true. I mean, whether it's true or not, the president does not like for people to go and talk against him, be it in the White House or especially when it comes to this serious investigation of Russia and possible obstruction of justice, conspiracy, fraud, what have you, and even collusion that is not a crime. So this president doesn't like it at all, and he will go to the nth degree to let you know that he doesn't like it.
Shannon, a number of Republicans, they seem to be worried about the departure of Don McGahn. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley, he tweeted the following: "I hope it's not true. You can't let that happen." The Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, he called it, quote, "sad news for our country." Is this purely about judges? McGahn, of course, has been central to the many appointments that Trump has made to the federal bench. Is that it, or are they concerned about what follows?
I think they're concerned about both. Certainly the work he's done with the judiciary, as been pointed out, has been a remarkable track record. And the point is, the White House counsel does a lot more than just defend on this one case. And I think they're concerned that other balls are going to drop at this point. And to the earlier points, that 30 hours of interviewing, it's just impossible for the Trump legal team to know what was covered in that. No amount of debriefing could do that unless you were there taking notes or having it transcribed. So he also leaves them really completely in the dark about what happened there.
Shannon, April, and Mark, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.